Today we are making the best homemade chocolate chip cookies. Come join us. We can try something new on you.
Oh, you can see it when you close your eyes.
Homemade me love a dirt road. Homemade me crave some ice cold. Homemade sweet tea only mama knows how to make. Yeah.
So today on Homemade Hometown, we're going to be trying something new on you, although it's not really that new. We're making chocolate chip cookies. The reason we're making chocolate chip cookies, though, is what's new. We now have a grandson and a son that is away in North Carolina doing campus ministry work. And so because we're in Texas and he's so far away, we thought we'd send him some homemade chocolate chip cookies. The other reason we're making them today is because my niece just recently graduated from college as a second lieutenant in the Marines, and she's away in Virginia doing training and such for about 6 months. So what better way to say thank you and tell her how proud we are of her than to bake some homemade chocolate chip cookies and send them to her, and then she can have a little taste of home. All right, so Mom, what do we need to do for all of our recipe?
Well, first of all, we're going to preheat our oven to 375. Then we're going to put together dry ingredients, which consists of 1.5 cups of flour, 1 teaspoon baking soda, and 1/2 teaspoon of salt. Those are the dry ingredients. Then our soft ones are 1/2 cup of softened butter.
Now make sure, I just want to interject real quick, make sure that you soften the butter but don't melt it, because it will change the way the cookies come out if you use melted butter. So just soften it so that it's stirrable, but don't melt it all the way. And we love Kerrygold butter. Just saying. But get the unsalted kind when you're baking, because there's a reason that it works better without all the salt in it. Some of the baking recipes, you don't want to have the salt that's in the butter.
Then we're going to have a 1/2 cup of regular sugar and a 1/2 cup of brown sugar. Then we're going to have a 1/2 teaspoon of vanilla. And Lisa and I love to use Mexican vanilla. It just gives a better flavor. And then we have 1 egg, and of course our chocolate chips. Now Lisa likes to use 3/4 of a bag.
And you can use any brand or any flavor of chocolate chips. I prefer the dark chocolate. That's just happened to be the special dark. That just happens to be my favorite, but you can use semi-sweet. It's in your choice. We're just kind of sticking with the traditional, but I like the special dark. All right, so now we're going to mix it all up. All right, so now we're going to get ready to just mix the dry ingredients so that the baking soda and the salt are fully integrated with the flour. And you just stir it until you feel like everything is mixed well, and then we're just going to set it aside for now, and we're going to mix up the wet ingredients. So we're going to set that to the side. First thing you're going to do is to put the butter into your mixing bowl. Make sure that you have it all in there. The next thing is you're going to put the sugar, so white sugar, remember 1/2 cup, and 1/2 cup of brown sugar. You're going to make sure all of that is in your mixing bowl. If you don't have a stand mixer and you just want to mix, you can take a spatula, you can take a wooden spoon, and you can just stir it around and really get it good. But I happen to have a stand mixer that my husband, the voice of reason, so graciously got me one year for Christmas, and so that is what I like to use. And we also need to add 1/2 teaspoon of vanilla. And then if you have a bottle of something of vanilla, you always want to wipe the sides because it will get sticky, and then it'll be so hard to get the top off after that.
All
We're going to cream the butter and the sugars and the vanilla together. All right, so now that we have the butters, the vanilla, and the sugar in here, we are going to turn this on and have it mix up. You want to make sure that your, if you do have a stand mixer, that it's locked so it doesn't pop up, and then you want to gradually work your way up to where it stirs. Once you think that it's mixed up well enough, then you're going to add your egg into there. Now, I could leave it on and add the egg, but knowing my luck, it would splatter everywhere. So we're just going to be safe and turn it off while we add our ingredients. Okay, once you feel like the wet ingredients are sufficiently mixed up, now you can add the dry ingredients. So we're going to unlock the mixer. I'm going to pull it up. I'm going to then pour the dry, which is the flour, the baking soda, and the salt, into the mixing bowl. And then I'm going to put this down, lock it tight, and start her up. So we're going to start slowly now that we have dry ingredients in there that it might explode. So we want to just go real slow to start with and make sure that I'm getting all of the flour from the sides. This recipe actually comes from my 8th grade home ec class. We had a great teacher, and I think her name was Mrs. Anderson. She was awesome. So back in the day, we had home ec classes where you would learn to sew and cook and do home economic kind of things because they used to think that was important in schools. Nowadays, I guess they don't have as many around. I mean, heck, they took out driver's ed from schools. So not for the better. So I do have to say that this recipe has been around since my 8th grade year, and it was my dad's favorite recipe as far as for chocolate chip cookies. So this is in honor of him that we're making chocolate chip cookies, and we're sharing the recipe with you. We've tweaked the recipe a little bit over the years because it had a little bit of this, a little bit of that, but I've sort of streamlined it all. That's why everything's like a cup and a half, just to make it easier, and they turn out every time. So trust me. Now that the dough is completely mixed together, we are going to have the fun part of adding the chocolate chips. But you don't want to do that with a stand mixer. You don't want them all chopped up or anything. You want them whole, so we're going to get everything we can off of the mixing tool, and then we're going to mix in the chocolate chips. All right, now that we've got the dough thoroughly mixed, we're going to add the chocolate chips. So you can cut, if you have your lovely assistant to stir it in, make sure it's kind of evenly dispersed. Like I said earlier, I like to do about 3/4 of a bag because I like a lot of chocolate chips. My dad, on the other hand, he could just have the dough by itself and you wouldn't even need the chocolate chips. So it's kind of personal preference as to what you would prefer. And then just make sure you scrape the sides and you really get it in, especially on the bottom part of the dough, because you don't want to be left at the end of your batch and not have any chocolate chips for each cookie. And then you're going to get a spoon of some kind to help make the cookies. One thing I've learned over the years is to use parchment paper. So I always, no matter what kind of baking sheet I'm using, and this one is a Pampered Chef stoneware, but you can use any kind of baking sheet. But I like to use the parchment paper because it helps the cookie not stick to the pan. It also kind of crisps it up just a little bit. Now, I don't want crispy cookies, okay? I don't want it super hard or anything like that, because I likes soft cookies, especially the voice of reason, aka my husband. So I like to make sure that he gets what he wants, and so I make sure that the cookies sit on parchment paper and then they cool on a wire rack when I've pulled them out of the oven for a while. Okay, so now that we have thoroughly mixed up the cookies, we're going to just take either a teaspoon or tablespoon, whatever you want, and you can use as big or as small as you want depending on your audience. And I just like to kind of make little mounds. And I know people are going to ask, like, how much does this recipe make? Honestly, it depends on the size of your cookies. I like to make mine probably about a 4-biter. But if you want to make yours smaller, if you want to make, really huge cookies for some kind of special event or something, it just depends. So, but what we're making today is just what I like to call the one batch of cookies. Now, when I get ready to make them for my son and my niece, I'm going to probably double or even triple the batch because I'm planning on making a lot of cookies, and hopefully they'll be delivered on time. So there we go. There's our first sheet of cookies. Now what we're going to do, put them in the oven. We've already preheated our oven for 375. We're going to put them in there for 10 minutes. You want to keep an eye on it. All ovens, are a little bit different and such. But if you cook it any longer than 10 minutes, it's going to harden not only in the oven, but when you set them out. So make sure 10 minutes is the max that you want to put them in the oven. All right. We've just taken the cookies out of the oven and we've let them sit for about 2 to 3 minutes, okay? And now we're going to take them off of the parchment paper on the pan and we're going to put them on top of the wire rack. Now I've also layered this with another piece of parchment paper because I don't want the gooiness. If the chocolate chip kind of falls through the 2 wires, it'll end up breaking the cookie. So what I'd like to do is just keep it on top of the parchment. So what we're going to do is gently slide it. You just want to gently slide it off. The least amount of movement that you can get is what you want. So if you have people that you want to say thanks to or tell them how proud you are by sending them some home-baked goods. Now I have to warn you, because we've done this a couple of times, the cost of shipping homemade cookies and such has gone up in recent years as the price of everything. So just be aware of that. And I know sometimes people say, well, it's just easier to send them a gift card, but does a gift card really say as much that you took the time to bake them cookies, remind them of home, remind them of, where they came from? This way maybe you're going to encourage them to come home for Thanksgiving or Christmas. So, take the time to make a homemade, something that they liked from their childhood or something that, you really brings good memories, fond memories. Because the whole point of Homemade Hometown is to spread some joy around. And not just in your own hometown, but anywhere. So, thank you for letting us try something new on you today. And the recipe will be in the description. But it's super easy. Anybody can bake homemade cookies now. And we hope that you enjoy. Anything you'd like to add?
Bon appetit.
Alrighty, well thank you so much and we'll see you on the next episode.